Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is yours truly, Dr. Katrina Esau, the creator and founder of Whole Wives Healing Openly, Leaving Him Exalted. I am also the author to The Pain of Infidelity Births Purpose, as well as the blueprint to becoming whole. And so today I just wanted to come on for a few minutes and just really talk to you a little bit about your will and how it may be impacting your peace. And just ask you the question, something for you to ponder. Is your will hindering your peace? Is your peace blocked by your will? What do you mean by that, Dr. Katrina? What I mean by that is sometimes we can be so set in our ways, we can be so stubborn when it comes to forgiveness, when it comes to healing, and that we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it God's way. We want to do it our own way. We want to take vengeance in our own hands. We want to do what we've been taught, what we've modeled, what we've seen modeled, what we've seen on TV shows, and what we've heard our girlfriends say, grandma, mama, my dear, all these different people and influences. And sometimes our our actions begin to model what we've seen and what we've heard. And what I'm learning as I get older is that we have some real paradigms that were never intended by God. We have some things that have to be broken. We hear them called so many different things. We hear talk about mindsets, shift your paradigm. We hear generational curses. And sometimes we use so many words and people don't really know, well, what exactly do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, can you break it down? And I know me sometimes, if I'm listening to someone and they use a word or terminology that I'm not familiar with, I kind of get stuck because I'm trying to figure it out. And it hinders me from hearing it and understanding the rest of what they say. So a lot of times I'm grateful when it's, something recorded, because I can go back and listen again, because it really kind of messes with me. And it's just the way that I process. We all process differently. But when I don't understand what you're saying, it's hard for me to engage and comprehend. And the one thing I'm learning is sometimes we use terminology and it seems common, it seems natural, it seems normal. We think everybody knows what we're talking about. And I'm learning when I'm in smaller settings is that everybody don't know what you're talking about. I'll give you an example. I was at a ladies group meeting and we were talking about cheating and infidelity. And I use the term infidelity, which I use a lot. And one of the young ladies, she was like, what does that mean? And I had to pause for a minute because my mind, I'm saying to myself, what do you mean? What does it mean? And not to degrade her or anything like that, but it just goes to show we assume that people understand. And so I took the time necessary to explain to her, what infidelity is, and that it's the same thing as somebody cheating on you, or where there's been a violation against the relationship. And so I explained that to her. But once I explained it, we were able to have some real deep dialogue. And so I don't want to digress, but I think it's important a lot of times to make sure that our communication is clear and that people understand us. And I said all that to say, which is why I titled this video the way that I did. Your peace is blocked by your will, because I can say all these fancy words and all these kinds of things, but if you don't understand what I'm trying to communicate to you, it's not helping you to grow. It's not helping you to develop. And that's not my point. That's not my goal. My goal is for you to get revelation, for you to get those aha moments, for you to be able to connect the dots so that you can go back and implement and really think about things, and so that you can have healing, so that you can get on the other side of what's ailing you. And so when I say or make the statement about your will, hindering or blocking your peace, we can be very strong willed, meaning that we want things our way right away. We are a microwave society. And so we want things done. If it's not done the way that I want you to do it, and if you don't do it as quick as I think you ought to do it, then I'm going to move on. And so I just want you to really examine and think about, where have you put your heels in? And primarily, I want you to focus in the area of healing and forgiveness, because that's what Dr. K is all about. Healing, restoration, and forgiveness, because that's my story. That's what I've had experience with. And so a lot of times, when you think about, having your will, and having your will block the peace that you so desperately desire to have, it can be tied to your will to not forgive. It goes back to when we hear people say, I forgive you, but I'll never forget. And sometimes you've been hurt so bad, you just don't see a way how you could ever forgive a person. And, I think about when people have been violated sexually, when there's been abuse, whether it's verbal or physical, you think about that and it's like, I can't forgive you. And especially when you've been a product of a sexual crime, and maybe it resulted in a child and you had to have an abortion. There's so many different types of trauma and abuse that we go through. And sometimes people look at it and it's like, there is no forgiving that. And I ask you, like I asked the ladies in the academy, is what is your payoff for not forgiving? What benefit is it to you to hold on to it? How is it helping you to keep holding on to that unforgiveness? You might be saying, Dr. K, but he raped me. I understand. I've never been in that situation, but I still believe that forgiveness has to happen, because it's not about the accuser. It's not about the offender. It's not about the other person. It's about you. And when you make the decision to forgive, you are taking back your power. You're taking back your control. You are releasing that individual from the prison of your heart. And so it's all about you. So I want you to think about your will and where you have maybe made some decisions to say, I'm not going to forgive. I'm not going to trust. I'm not going to give my all in this relationship, because you're only going to hurt me again. However you've justified it, however you've explained it away to yourself, I want you to take a step back and really think about how your actions, your will, how you are deciding to keep yourself stuck, to keep yourself in prison, to keep yourself in a place where you're hindering the flow of opportunity, you're hindering growth, you're hindering your peace. You say in one breath that you just you want your peace, you want to have joy, you want to have happiness, you want to live life abundantly, you want to do all of these things, you want to have your husband back, you want to have the relationship back with your girlfriend, you want all of these things, but you're not willing to let some things go. And when you forgive, you are doing just that. Let it go. There is no benefit for you to hold on to it. You don't want to be in a place where you're bitter, where you're angry, where you become resentful because you refuse to let it go. Don't fight to be right. Don't fight to be right. Don't be a right fighter. And don't be so stubborn and stiff-necked that you can't allow growth and healing to come into your life. Because in this season, it is time for you to heal. It is time for you to walk in forgiveness. It is time for you to take the high road. We've seen so much happen over the last year, with being in this pandemic, and how it has impacted us mentally, how it has impacted our relationships, how it has impacted our ability to be around other people freely. And so if you look at it, there's such a mental strain when you think about the separation and the trauma of it. And that's the same thing when you think about cheating and infidelity. That's what it is. It's trauma. It is really traumatizing to your body. Research shows that it's akin to trauma, that it's one of those things where you have to literally go through a process. There is a process that you go through when you're grieving a relationship that is no longer the way that it was originally. So you go through the 5 steps of grief, which are very important to know when you're trying to heal in a relationship. So I'm just encouraging you today to check your will, to see if your will is stopping your peace, to see if your will is what's keeping you up at night, crying and feeling alone and depressed in that deep, dark place. Is your will blocking your peace? And be truthful. You can lie to a lot of people, but don't lie to yourself. Be truthful with yourself and where you are. I'm not telling you to take ownership for what somebody did to you, but what I'm asking you to do is to release that person. I'm asking you to forgive. And if you say, Dr. K, I can't do it. Can you just ask God to place forgiveness in your heart? Can you just even repeat after me? Lord, I surrender to you. I surrender my will to you. It is my desire to walk in complete and total healing and wholeness, but I do not have the capacity to forgive whomever. Put that person's name there. And God, I surrender to you and ask you to place forgiveness in my heart toward that individual. Place forgiveness in my heart toward my husband, toward my child, toward my mother, toward my father, toward the accuser, to the person that violated me, to the person that violated not only our relationship, but to the one that maybe violated my body. Lord God, I surrender to you and I ask you to heal every place that I hurt. And God will do just that. He wants you healed. He wants you to be whole, but he gives us a will. He gives us the ability to do things, to speak things, to call those things that be not as though they were. And so you have to acknowledge where you are and then allow God to do the rest. You have to be willing to do the work, because I don't want you in this same place next year to be saying the same things of how hurt you are and how you can't do this and you can't do that. Take that word out of your vocabulary and begin to find ways and strategies on how you can do it. What's necessary for you to go to that next level? What's necessary for you to take that next step so that you can become whole again, so that you can walk in a peace that surpasses all understanding, so that you can walk in that place called joy, so you can walk in that place called restored, so you can walk in the joy of the Lord. What is it going to take for you to love you enough to do the work and to let go all of the bitterness, to let go all of the anger, to let go the resentment, to let go of the jealousy, to let go of the hatred? What is it going to take for you to surrender your will and allow God's will to be done? Ponder on that today. That's all. I just wanted to come on for a moment, to encourage you guys. A lot of these times when I do these videos or these recordings, it's stimulated by a conversation that I've had. And usually it's from more than one woman that I've talked to. And so I know if one is going through it, if two is going through it, there's more than that. There's more people that need to hear it. There's somebody else that needs to know that they can surrender their will. There's somebody else that needs to know that they can forgive, that they can forgive for real, that they don't have to keep an account of what was done. They don't have to keep track of what was done, but they can release that person from their heart and walk in the joy of the Lord and know that you are an overcomer by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of your testimony. There's another sister that needs to hear your story. There's somebody else that needs to be encouraged by your story. So I encourage you to heal so that you can share it, so that you can share it across this nation. There are wives and women hurting on every side from the pain of infidelity and cheating and being violated. So I encourage you to go ahead and take an inventory and have that hard conversation with yourself. You don't have to tell everybody about it. You can journal it. Journaling is cathartic. And what I mean by cathartic is it is healing to your soul. You can write stuff out in your journal that you'll never have the courage or the strength to say to somebody else. You can write stuff in your journal that maybe your accuser is no longer even here, no longer even living, or it's a very volatile situation that you couldn't safely even approach the person to forgive them. That's why it's important for you to write, for you to get a journal and to journal what's happening. What are your emotions toward what is happening? So I encourage you today to do that. Again, I'm Dr. Katrina Esau. I am the creator and founder of Whole Wives Healing Openly, Leaving Him Exalted. I am also the author of The Pain of Infidelity Births Purpose and The Blueprint to Becoming Whole. And depending on when you're listening to this, I encourage you to sign up for my masterclass that's coming up this month, April 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you haven't registered already, go ahead and register so that you can be encouraged. We will be talking about how to heal infidelity and to rebuild trust. And it's open to any woman that has a desire to do just that. Normally, I'm so focused on my wives because that's my heart, that's my passion. Because I've been that wife that's been cheated on. I've been that wife that has felt rejected. I've been that wife that has been hurt and that has felt alone and that has felt like nobody else was going through what I was going through. I've wore the hat of shame and guilt and embarrassment. So I tend to draw nigh to wives that are in that same place because I like to share my story and my experience to help them overcome and to get to this place called joy. But this particular event, this masterclass, it is open to all women, women only. But it's open for any woman that truly needs to heal from infidelity and that's ready to learn how to rebuild trust and do it in a way that it impacts all relationships. It's not just about the husband and the wife, but it's about all relationships so that you can walk in a place of power and authority. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe if you're finding this channel encouraging, and be sure to share it with a friend. Have a great day.